Lord Bach. I beg leave to ask the question standing in my name on the order paper.
My Lords, these matters were assessed as part of the impact assessments which were published alongside the Legal Aid Sentencing and Punishment of Offenders Act 2012.
My Lords, I thank the noble Lord, the Minister, for his reply in as far as it goes. I don't think it's very full on detail. It's now only 21 days until civil legal aid is effectively disappears, affecting access to justice for perhaps hundreds of thousands of people every year. What does Her Majesty's Government think will happen to the disabled person, for example, who wants to appeal his or her ATOS decision, or the person who needs housing advice but can't get it because the local shelter housing advice centre has been forced to close, as today's newspapers report? What are the government's contingency plans when unadvised and unrepresented clients flood courts and tribunals? No one can say the government hasn't been warned, all the way from the very top of the legal system to small charities who are at breaking point. What are the government going to do when it all goes wrong?
My Lords, we are working on some of these issues. We're working with the judiciary to improve guidelines for people representing themselves in court. We are developing a new line information service to help people find out if they're eligible for legal aid or signpost them to other services. We're giving 65 million funding to help not-for-profit social welfare advice providers to adapt and transition over the next 2 years. And we're also encouraging innovations in the legal services market, such as the provision of lower-cost advice services to help people in resolving their problems.
My Lords, how can anybody make a useful assessment in such a short time as there is now to the changes? And should we not recognise that great trouble has been taken over these proposed changes? And let's, in a very tight financial situation, has not the time come to let's see what happens and, if necessary, make changes one way or the other?
I thank my noble friend for that question. It is true that Lord Bach has made something of a cottage industry of his shame. Well, he continually talks about what is going to happen, what is going to happen. We, as my noble friend has just said, let us see what happens. And we are, as I've just indicated, making a number of changes. And of course I do understand that there are difficulties for organisations like Shelter, for CAB, and we have tried to give assistance in those adjustments. But it is extremely difficult to simply give precise responses to predictions of catastrophes that may or may not happen. What I can say to my noble friend, if the noble lady will just hold a second, what I can say to the noble friend is that of course we will keep these matters under review, and as my noble friend on those benches will remind, on their instructions we inserted into LASPO a clause which allows review of the impact of these changes that we've made.
My Lords, I'm not going to ask the noble Lord the Minister about legal aid, but is he aware of the increased importance of law centres and citizens' advice bureaus in advising unrepresented litigants, of which there will be an enormous increased number come April? And what is the government going to do to help those to advise the unrepresented litigants?
Yes, I am aware of that. But one of the points I've made continually through this is that the CAB and the law centres, just as my own department has had to do, just as local authorities have had to do, they'll have to adjust to a situation where the amount of money that they have at their disposal is a lot less. That's a fact of life, which I've said on a number of occasions. We're a lot poorer than we thought we were 4 years ago. CAB have been extremely successful in lobbying, and as I indicated, we have made more funds available. And for example, my Right Honourable and noble friend, the Lord Chancellor, has announced today that we will be giving further aid to the CAB at the Royal Courts of Justice to help with the particular work that they're doing in this area.
My Lords, in 3 weeks' time, the bedroom tax will kick in, and I use that word kick in advisedly. Some 660,000 families, 2/3 of them disabled, will lose between £14 and £25 a week from their benefit. Given that the CAB, despite the noble Lord's answers, is losing, locally certainly, some 40% of its funding, given that the Lord Chancellor's money has dried up, where does he expect these 660,000 families to go for advice?
They will go to the CABs in their local authorities, of course. Well, we will see whether the opposition continues to preach gloom and doom about this. And they will be entitled to bring to our notice how these impacts take place. But what we have done, as I've said, we've put a number of measures in place to try and deal with this new situation. We have, as I said, put on a new online information service. We have given CAB and other advice centres transitional money, and will continue to do so. And we're looking for innovations in legal services from other parts of the legal profession. We will see what happens.
My Lords, will my noble friend the Minister confirm? My Lords, we haven't had one from these benches at all. It's this side. Haven't had one from these benches at all. My Lords.
My Lords, we're now in the 17th minute, so I fear we must move on to the next question.